It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth in terms of really understanding how to create an exit strategy, how to really successfully depart, cut ways, break ties, tighten up loose ends if you are finding yourself in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, someone who is really being emotionally manipulative, emotionally abusive. You're not able to pursue your happiness. You're not able to pursue the things that make you you, because you're always sort of keeping, there's an undertow, an emotional undertow that this person has sort of surrounded you with in terms of, you know, keeping you off step, keeping you off center, and keeping you in sort of a downgraded state. And so really when we talk about an exit strategy, it's to understand that, number one, forgiveness has to be at the forefront. You have to forgive this person. You have to forgive yourself. Life is a process. Life is a series of lessons learned, and it's the accumulation of these that eventually will get you on the right path and kind of in touch with your purpose, being centered, being happy in your life. But oftentimes people do find themselves in the midst of a difficult relationship, and certain things are holding them back. They don't believe that they can make it alone. They don't believe life is going to be interesting or exciting. There's all sorts of excuses perhaps that they've made about this person, and so they continue to create excuses about this person. Maybe they're just, you know, having a bad week, a bad month, you know, making all sorts of accommodations for them. And it's time really to stop the excuses and, you know, beginning to understand that it is possible, it will be possible, and it absolutely will be a great thing if you feel that you are in a relationship that is not good for you, not in your best interest, not allowing you to feel happy, safe, and really also, you know, living your purpose, living, doing what you're interested in, sort of being able to freely express yourself without getting a look, without getting a slammed door, without getting yelled at. You know, the signs of emotional abuse are there from emotionally manipulative individuals. And oftentimes it's because you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see exactly what's going on. Especially if you're so worn out and fatigued emotionally, you tend to then become isolated. And remember, the love bombing that oftentimes the narcissist as well as the psychopath engage in is that of isolation. So they tend to isolate you really from others, the pack, perhaps, you know, different sides of the family or different sides of your company. They tend to kind of get you into a corner and paint you into that corner very quickly. So realize a healthy relationship, I think it's also good to help motivate you with an exit strategy, is to understand what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like, and what an emotionally manipulative relationship and trauma bond looks like and feels like. If you feel, you know, let's just look at what an unhealthy relationship looks like. If you're constantly afraid, if you're being spoken down to, if this person is being condescending, this is a huge red flag. I mean, I don't know if there's any larger red flag than that of being condescending. And then to take that and to run with it and to feel that perhaps this person could be right. Yeah, we all make mistakes from time and time again. Yeah, sometimes we need someone to, say, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? You know, to err is human. And, you know, life is all about making mistakes. The most successful people are really those who have just made the most mistakes. But someone who's holding your humanness against you, someone who is trying to blow things up out of proportion, someone who is, you know, reacting way up here and freaking out and blowing the lid off things when it's just like, really, you know, does it need to be, you know, that dramatic? I mean, you know, the drama and the chaos, as I say, the psychopath will engage in the engineered chaos, the drama. I mean, they just basically plant a cliff for you to fall off of. But, you know, the condescending tone, treatment, is really, I would say, one of the largest red flags, where they're talking down to you, belittling you, giving you the, the evil look, the cold stare, the cold shoulder, slamming the doors, ignoring you, purposely pushing you away, and not being inclusive. So this is a huge red flag that you are in an emotionally manipulative relationship with someone who is resorting to these tactics to make themselves feel better, to make themselves sort of feel in that entitlement realm. And no, arguing with them is not going to begin to make sense and help to get them back on track and save the relationship. If they've already done this, it's like the tip of the iceberg. They're going to keep doing it again and again and again. So it's really, really important to understand that you do not need to put up with this. You do not need to acquiesce. You don't need to, take it laying down. You don't need to, just swallow your pain. You don't need to swallow these feelings any longer. People put up with it for so long because they tend to then put this person on a pedestal or put them in sort of a superior status. You're going through a lot of concepts, happy wife, happy life, whatever sort of concepts or tenets that were generating you to put up with the abuse, oftentimes you have to examine within yourself. And so oftentimes those are the ones that can get you into trouble and get you into really, perhaps a mess that you might find yourself in that you need to exit out of. You need to, get on the getaway train. You need to, begin to pay like a viewer so aptly said, put yourself into storage, get a storage unit, get a smaller apartment. If you have a nest egg, look at ways of, taking some of that, and even if it's like a 401k, and just putting off some of it to help you get back on your feet. It's really, your life will just be slowly eroding away. Your happiness will be eroding away if you stay in this sort of painted corner feeling with this individual. And all is not lost. You have to understand that life is like rising to meet you. Life is a series of falls and getting up. I mean, that's really what walking is. I'm not sure who said it, but it's like for every time my body falls, I rise. That's really like what your footsteps are. So to think that you're weak, meek, inferior because you're having this situation is you're just adding insult to injury. You're not giving yourself the forgiveness that you need to give, really. And that's like just a whole powerful concept in and of itself, is the power of forgiveness. Because if you hold a grudge, if you hold anger, if you hold hostility against this person, you're still engaging and you're solidifying that trauma bond. Resistance makes stronger, so you're aggravating the situation for yourself if you don't learn the art of forgiveness. Forgiveness is saying, I apologize. I had made a grave error in judgment. Unbeknownst to me, I did not know that this was occurring. And, time will ebb and flow, and oftentimes you don't see and understand the fact that this is occurring. So a lot of people aren't able to identify it. They're like a deer in the headlights. They're distracted. They don't know how to identify their feelings. Am I supposed to take this because I'm a man? Am I supposed to take this because I'm a woman? Am I supposed to take this because it's my husband, my wife, my brother, my mother, my father? All these different titles that tend to say, yeah, you have, the carte blanche to be able to treat me however you want. Now, this is flawed thinking, to allow that into place. And it's also to not give yourself enough credit that, and also that life will also be able to show you the clues that lead you to success, to, helping you become your best self. And yes, it does take focus, it does take determination, but you have to be able to separate yourself and really begin to extract yourself from that engineered drama and chaos that's created with that very hostile and sort of turbulent emotional minefield that can be created with these types of people. And to emerge is to come out pure. It's a purification of your senses, which is so very wonderful. It is to really say, I need help. And it's very, very difficult to acknowledge and validate that, I would say, for a lot of people, because they don't want to admit the fact that they need help. They don't want to admit that this is not working. They don't want to admit that, you know, they're in too deep. They don't want to admit that they're heartbroken, and so they just, you know, build up more and more callous and more time suffering. And so it is, you know, it is to say that, you know, you want to upgrade your life, and so you need to move on. You want, you know, you want to upgrade your way of thinking, so you need to move on. You want to upgrade your happiness, so you want to move on. You want to, you know, really sort of detox and get rid of all those spasmodic emotions that tend to stick around when you're in this relationship, which is like a virus. It's having your systems go haywire. The insomnia, the irritable bowel, all the other issues that tend to, you know, including the PTSD, which is just keeping you in that terrorized state and feeling like you can't ever leave, that it makes you very uncomfortable and you become highly sensitive and highly triggered. You know, you might break out into tears at the grocery store, or, you know, clothes shopping, or at your workplace. You know, very inconvenient times, your emotions will be raging out of control. You'll be thinking the worst thoughts. And that is really fueled by that fight or flight mechanism, which oftentimes the narcissist or the psychopath will use to their advantage. You know, if you look at the newspapers of the world, you know, they don't say it's going to be 80 and sunny today. They're going to say it's, you know, tornadoes and you know, this is all the horrible news. So it's like fear and the horrible tends to sell more and get people's attention more than the good and the positive. Yet the good life is living in the positive, the good, the accomplishments, the, you know, the testimony of the success of human struggle, and, you know, the masterpieces that they create, the skyscrapers, the beautiful parks, the beautiful movies, you know, the great inventions of the world. There's so many much more interesting, fulfilling things for you to be, to open yourself up to, than being shutting yourself out in this relationship, which is just keeping you small, keeping you stuck. And so to really get leverage with yourself is to also admit forgiveness. It's to say, you know, I am so sorry that I found myself. This is a self-admittance where you begin to really surrender, and you really begin to, you know, really open up and say, you know what I've been doing is not working, and I'm allowing something greater to assist me. So you have to acknowledge and validate the fact that there are other thoughts, other feelings, other people, other emotions that are going to lift you out. It's to understand that there is a bigger plan at work in your life, but you can't oftentimes see it when you're stuck in this relationship. You know, people think it's never going to change, it won't happen for me. You know, they're talking themselves out of a good life. They're stuck in the I can'ts. You know, it's just one miserable thing after the other. And, you know, regardless of your age, it is never too late to reclaim your life and really sort of pick yourself up and allow life to move you in the direction of your happiness. But the problem with the narcissist oftentimes is that your happiness is always a problem. Your success is always a problem. The fact that you can think for yourself can be a problem. The fact that you have different ideas or different opinions can be a problem. And you're always snuffed out or shut out because, again, they're all about the ego edging good out. Ego edging good out. They're always trying to, you know, edge people from approaching their status or their power. Their power might be in aggression. Their power might be in hostility. Their power might be in their money. You know, you can't be bought like that. A lot of viewers do have that enmeshment, especially on that financial level, and that becomes just a chain that you have to break. It has to be a way for you to say, you know, okay, yes, I do have my needs. How can I look ahead and begin to get the skills and get myself earning money? What kind of sustenance? What can I do to begin to piece things together? Because you got yourself into it. You probably didn't get yourself into it overnight, but you can get yourself out of it. And So with that forgiveness, though, is really the understanding that it is to err as human, and that's the beautiful thing. And it's to dissolve any sort of judgment. It's to dissolve any sort of grudge that you might, hold on to them. You took the best years of my life. I deserve, I deserve to have been treated better, and now my life is ruined. To make these sort of statements, your word is law. So if you begin to keep holding them as accountable for your happiness, then you're going to stay in that trauma bond. You're not going to be motivated to exit. You're not going to be motivated to leave. You're not going to be motivated to find your own strength, your own power, and to realize that you have your own creative power, that life is here to assist you, that this is the goal of life, this is your life purpose, and your life passion is to find those different experiences that make you feel the best. But oftentimes when you look back in your relationship, and the times that you were making advances or feeling good is usually when either this person cheated on you, they blew up at you, all sorts of things began to unravel, because you're beginning to come into your own glory. And this oftentimes is because the narcissist particularly is threatened by the happiness or the success or accomplishments of others, especially if it should outshadow theirs. That's part of the whole tenet and how it's all structured. So in knowing that to be the case, you have to give yourself that liberty. You have to give yourself that freedom to just make the move. Begin to look in the general direction of your happiness. Begin to understand that you're not a nobody without this person. You are a whole round person. So someone who can't treat you with a global sort of feeling of humanity, they're trying to slice you and dice you and put you into too small a box. The psychopath, one thing I think that's heartbreaking when people stay for so long is they're oftentimes very threatened that the other person will give it to them better than I did. Guess what, guys? It's not better for the next guy, the next girl. In fact, you should really kind of be relieved when they move on. Despite all the addiction to them, despite all the little gifts, the sweet nothings, you thought it was going to be, romancing, whatever. You thought they were the most romantic person. They swept your breath away, yada, yada, yada. No. Crumble that up, throw it in the trash. There is something better working for you. Living a lie, living in sort of this feeling of instability and being out of control is not gonna, you're running on your adrenals, and your adrenals are gonna peter out. Any sort of, when we look at especially like the work of Dr. David Hawkins, and he talks about muscle testing, and he looks at different athletes who have muscle tested. So you can really study that. It's a very interesting philosophy. It's to understand really that your body is the subconscious mind, and that when you hold something in your mind, whether it's a person, an event, a color, a quality, an emotion, your body will either test positively and be strong, or it'll fall down in weakness. And when you are muscle tested, I'm not going to go too much into this about that into this video, but it's the understanding that really, like for example, the athletes who are in it for the love of the game, the love of the sport, the love of the fans, and not in it for the money, oftentimes those people are more resilient. They can stay in it longer. They don't burn out on their careers. They don't blow all their money in gambling. They don't have all these lurid affairs. They're in it for the love of the sport. The money is a byproduct. So, when you are in a relationship, especially with a narcissist or a psychopath, and the cortisol is running the relationship, the stress hormones, the adrenals are running the relationship, eventually those endocrine systems are going to taxi out. They're going to become overworked. Your endocrine system is going to become out of balance. You're going to be you're running on sort of a too high octane energy, and you're not really able to sort of really savor things in really sort of I'm going to use the word global sense, live your life. It's always sort of bits and fragments, I feel. when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, because of the stress, the cortisol, the fear, it causes you to see things in the small picture. You're not able to be open. You're not able to allow different thought processes or live in the solution. They're not able to entertain your communication. There's not a give and take. There's not this feeling of openness. There's always this feeling of, again, the emotional minefield, that condemnation. Once again, getting right back to the red flags. Someone who is condescending to you, to me, that is a deal breaker. Boom, done. Hit the curb. I don't care if you fly, drive, boat, you know, skid out of here on your bare bottom. You know, you're going to condescend to me and try to have power over me. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You know, I ain't entertaining that anymore. There's no space in my life for people who are condescending to me or condescending to groups of people, condescending to others. You aren't living with empathy. You are not living, you know, you're being like, you're giving the entitlement, you know, you're too superhuman, you're too school for, you know, you're too cool for school. You know, I'm sorry, but, you know, I'm not open to being hurt in that manner. Life is too precious. You don't need to be living diseased, unhappy, unfulfilled, and bottoming out, having your emotions, your adrenals bottom out, you know, trying to flip yourself over backwards to try to, you know, keep up with this person and save the relationship. You know, people are they try to give too much and be too much glue. It is, you know, that is over obligating. That's also a cornerstone of codependency, is this feeling of needing to over obligate, over give, you know, putting up and tolerating too much because you're so afraid that, you know, you've done something wrong that has, you know, caused this treatment of you. You have not done anything wrong. Stop assigning all this blame. This person should be responsible and accountable, and those people who you decide and choose to share your life with should have that element of empathy within, because really then that's where the good stuff is. When you're able to sort of look at the big picture and have powerful feelings like gratitude, powerful feelings like peace, powerful feelings like harmony, powerful feelings like stillness or serenity, positive feelings like being able to dream your life into action. You know, those are positive states. Being afraid, being fearful, those are disempowering states. You're in the limbic brain. You're living on the cortisol, the adrenals. You know, you're living out of stress, and, you know, your body pretty soon is going to break down from those very strong chemicals running through it. You know, like, we are not meant to live by the adrenals on a day in, day out basis. You are not meant to live a false life. You're not meant to put up a fake smile. You are not meant to try to, you know, live from the outside in, meaning, you know, the appearance of, you know, putting on a show, putting on, you know, airs, putting on fronting. You know, that, you know, if you're getting dressed up to go to, you know, a wedding, and then, like, if it's a fancy thing, or you're going out for a big event, and then, you know, you're kind of going, you know, going up a little bit more, jazzing up your life, going out on a social event, that's one thing. But constant adrenal, constant cortisol, that is going to break the body down. That is not how relationships are meant to be lived. They're meant to be more in balance, ebb and flow, give and take. And so your body will be at its most empowered state when it's in that powerful state of peace. You see, but the narcissist and the psychopath, you know, peace ain't where it's at for them. You know, oftentimes that fabric of happiness does not involve, it's always trying to, you know, be better than, in that constant improvement. You know, there always is a discontent. So, you know, to get an exit strategy is to say, you know, I am en route to content. I have content. I have peace and harmony within me. That is what I can then receive and open myself up to receiving the good, rather than always trying to shut in the bad. You know, if you're, you know, you'll find that you'll, you know, be shutting so much out that it becomes habitual. And so it's so difficult to leave because it becomes nothing but a habit. So once again, the exit strategy is saying, I'm going to take on a piece of paper and write down 10 different things that I can do today to move myself onward. 10 different things that I can do to actually get me in the right direction. I can begin looking for a job. I can begin to talk to my family. I can begin to talk to my friends. I can find a place to live. I can find a place to work. I can ask for that divorce. I can get legal representation. I can begin to look for a place to pitch all of my stuff that is holding me down. I can surround myself with other positive people in my immediate environment, and I can trust myself to make the right decision. So oftentimes it is that internal trust that you need to rekindle and begin to feel that and begin to make, being very decisive, making decisions, enforcing them, not talking yourself out of it, not, being too sheepish, not being too ginger, not being too afraid. But peace and harmony, I've never done this before. Well, life is all about learning. It's beginning, to then find the support, in your community, finding those help centers, those training centers. Don't be afraid to go on, knock on some doors, make some phone calls, find some inroads, find a place to start, and then just keep making your baby steps. And eventually, you'll find that you'll be walking all along the path, and then with each step, you'll be getting a new perspective, and you'll see in the long run how you made one of the best decisions. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Love you. Peace out.